Okay, guys, this is the last page of Concept 4 from today's lesson. This last page says, or starts with saying, comparing function values to 0. Okay, which variable x or y does the function notation f of x represent? This is review, right? F of x is equal to y. Now, if f of x is equal to 0, in other words, y is equal to 0 for a given point on a graph, then where is that point located? So think about it. If the y value is 0, right, what points would that be on the graph? That'd be on the x-axis, right? Any point 4 comma 0, for example, has a y value of 0, right? 2 comma 0, 3 comma 0, and so on, okay? So when y value is equal to 0, where are you on the graph? You're on the x-axis, okay? If f of x is greater than 0, in other words, if f of x is positive for a given point on a graph, then where is that point located? If the y value is positive, then you have to be above the x-axis, right? Here's the x-axis, here are the positive y values, so you have to be above the x-axis, okay? If f of x is less than 0, in other words, negative, okay? If the y value is negative for a given point on the graph, then where is that point located? It has to be below the x-axis because that's where the negative y values are, okay? It says use a marker, highlighter, or colored pencil and trace the graph from left to right for any value or values or intervals in which the graph f of x is equal to 0, it's greater than 0, or less than 0. So where it's 0, positive, and negative, or negative. So, of course, I have it here already. So where is this graph on the x-axis? Where are the y values equal to 0? That's wherever the graph crosses or is tangent to the x-axis. Okay, so right here, and right here. So I identify those x values. That's at x is equal to -3, right? At x is equal to 0, and at x is equal to 6. Okay. The next one is, where is the graph above the x-axis, right? So I have highlighted it here. These are the parts of the graph where you are above the x-axis. So next it says, identify the x values for the highlighted portion of the graph. That's from -3 to 0, union 0 to 6. Why did we break off here at 0? Okay, we have to break off because right at 0, what's happening right at 0? Right, you're on the x-axis, not above it, right? So these parts, you're clearly a positive y value, but right here, right on this point, you're not above the x-axis, you're on it. Okay, so you do have to break off at 0. Okay, next, where is the graph negative? Where are the y values negative? Okay, that's here, these highlighted parts. Okay, from -5 to -3. Okay, and from 6, which is right here, to 7. Okay, these are the x values. Now, notice that -5 has a bracket, okay, because that's included, it's under. At -3, we do have a parentheses, okay? We do have to have a parentheses because right at -3, you're not below the x-axis, you are on the x-axis. So same idea, okay? So we have to use parentheses to not include -3. Same idea for 4 or 6, sorry. You have to use parentheses for 6 because right at x is equal to 6, you're on the x-axis, not below it, okay? And then 7, of course, is below, so bracket, okay? Same reasoning is happening here. With this -3, we have to use parentheses because you're on the x-axis, okay? And then the 6 as well, okay? Parentheses because you're on the x-axis. So it says, again, should your intervals identified above be identified as closed intervals, the use of brackets, or open intervals, the use of parentheses? Give a reason for your choice. It's what we just explained, okay? The intervals might open, close, or a mixture of both depending upon what is being identified by the interval and where the graph is located at the endpoints. So this is the common mistake, again, that students make, okay? So watch the wording or the symbols they're using. On the x-axis, okay, above the x-axis, the points on the x-axis are not above, okay, they're on. Similarly, below the x-axis, okay, these points here are not below, they are on, okay? So when you construct your interval here, make sure you use parentheses where it's needed. Identify the domain of the graph function from -5 all the way to 7, right? It's continuous. And then the range, how low does this function go? From -4 all the way to +4, right? And there are no open circles, no discontinuity, so brackets, okay? And that concludes the lesson from today.